I don't want to rule or conquer anyone.
My main interest is to preserve our democratic institutions.
Whatever the cost may be.
I want to retain the right to vote.
Fight for liberty!
I have the right to speak freely.
We, the people of the United States,
may prosper together.
We shall never surrender.
In the name of democracy, let us all unite!
All right. We are back. Well, I'm back. It's me, Leo. This is the Progressive Patriots. This is like the smartest fucking show you're ever gonna find. So, congratulations to you if this is your first time. If you're not new here, be sure to point at the new people and laugh. It is just after 2200 on September 25th. By the time that you're hearing this, who knows? The world might have exploded. I couldn't say. It's pretty fucking wild out there. I do my best to always research as thoroughly as I can. But if there's something I say that's incorrect, you have my number here, 833-589-7637. Or if you just want to add more detail, I'm always interested in learning more about things. So 833-LUXPODS if you want to use it. There you go. All right. I wanted to start off with, I don't know who, good news for me, but maybe not for New York City Mayor Eric Adams. His charges of corruption that were formally brought today. So that's kind of fun. He was being investigated for corruption from his 2021 campaign up to now. No details on what the corruption is, but it looks like it's all coming to a head. A lot of other New York politicians have been calling for him to resign, and he has refused. So we'll see how that plays out. We'll keep an eye on it. I wanted to open up with some international diplomacy things. The UN General Assembly is this week. But before I get to that, Mexico recently elected Claudia Sheinbaum to be president of Mexico. She's going to be inaugurated on October 1st. And she is not inviting the Spanish royal family to the inauguration. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez says that this is unacceptable, inexplicable, and that no representatives of Spain will be present at the inauguration because she didn't invite the king himself. The previous president, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, you may know him as AMLO. He wrote to King Felipe VI a few weeks ago. He wants the Spanish crown to issue a formal apology for colonial abuses. And the Felipe did not respond at all. Further, the AMLO also called for the Vatican to do the same, and the Pope, I don't know how you want to take it, but he did issue a broad apology to everyone, to any and everyone he could for the atrocities committed by the Vatican in years past. So, I don't know. Does that count? I think it does. Yeah. But because there was no response to AMLO from Felipe, Sheinbaum did not invite him to the inauguration ceremony, so I thought that was kind of fun. King Felipe can, and Prime Minister Sanchez can, or they can, I don't care, them both. All right, UN General Assembly. There's a lot of fucking movers and shakers. No kidding, it's all of the national leadership of every country that's a member, which is all of them. If not, it's their highest delegate, i.e. Secretary of State or Foreign Minister, that type of thing. So the president of Brazil, Lula da Silva, I just know him as Lula. He is like kind of the head, I think right now, of Mercosur. So the EU and that South American bloc of nations, it's Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, Uruguay. There's a pretty huge trade deal that's going to be signed between those two. Last I remember, the French were not happy about this. Good for them, great for South America. I hope we had talked about a long time ago this really big Chinese investment in Peru and Ecuador. So kind of interested to see how these are going to play out together, because the idea is for the EU to trade with South America. No shit. And China's doing the same thing on the west coast of the continent. So I know that Brazil is what I had learned looking into that huge port that they're building in Guayaquil, Ecuador, is that the Brazilians are already using it a lot. It's already functional, obviously, but yeah. So we'll see how that whole situation plays out. Also going on they call it UNGA for some reason. That is so fucking dumb. I'm not calling it that. It's the General Assembly. That's all it is to me. So the UN Security Council, you probably know about it, even if you've only heard it in passing. It's, I think, up to 15. I probably should have looked into this, but there's more discussion over expanding it to include, specifically in this part of the expansion, to include African nations. And it would have, I think it was 5 seats, 3 or 5 seats, and they'll be on a rotating basis. And also the African Union is going to get some representation at the UN, at least more representation. So that's cool. The only problem right now with the Security Council expansion is the veto power, which is what makes the Security Council fucking useless. Because the Security Council must vote unanimously on everything in order for it to pass. You can abstain, just vote present or whatever, but it has to be unanimous. And that has long been a tool for the Russians or the Chinese and us, UK, all the big players to fuck with each other. So yeah, we'll see how that develops. I would like for them to have representation on the Security Council, and if they don't have a veto power, then like what's really the point of being on the Security Council? I don't know, but I understand the concerns, the dysfunctional nature of the Security Council as it stands today. And Africa, right, is just the first consideration. There will be others for Pacific Island nations, which I'll be talking about one in just a second. So, Pact for the Future. This is a thing that's been in the works for the UN for some time, but it's finally, they're launching, I guess, or, brand reveal. They're hard launching here. I tried to look into it, and it's really just broad, sweeping, fucking feel-good statements. Essentially, multilateral agreement that can act quicker on crises or climate problems, whatever the case is. It's a way for the UN to be more agile. So that's good, because I think the Security Council issues, this might be a good way to get around that. Because if you don't like what the Future Pact is doing, well then, don't fucking be a part of it. It's that simple. You don't have to be a part of it. Don't participate. Now, the climate portion. So today there was this is like the 5th time that they've fucking done this, and nothing's changing. It's upsetting. The Prime Minister of Tuvalu Island Nation, the PM, Kausea Natano, gave a speech talking about climate change, where it's an issue that, for us, here in the US, we have the luxury for fucking morons to be able to say, well, I don't believe that is real, despite it being beyond proven at this point. But we have the luxury of being able to debate if it's even a real thing. Whereas Tuvalu is living it every single day, where rising sea levels are taking more and more of the little land area that they do have away. And this is a situation where fucking Ben Shapiro's very brilliant self said about Florida, where, oh, well, your house keeps getting demolished. Well, just sell your house and move. Who the fuck are you going to sell your house to? Who are they selling? Who are the Tuvaluan people going to sell their stuff to? Where are they going to go? Their home is being washed away. So there isn't a whole lot of selling and moving that they can really do. We have to act. There is a little pact between Tuvalu and Australia, the Falipili Union, where they've been doing this for about a year, and they take 280 Tuvaluans to Australia as permanent residents. It's a annual thing. Not sure how that's decided, but I didn't really look into it that much. If we're just going to not do something about it, we're going to need more migrant refugee agreements like this. Because what the Tuvaluans all hop on a ship, they sail to, I don't know, San Diego or something. And then what, Donald Trump's gonna show up saying, oh, go back to where you fucking came from. Sorry, pal. It doesn't exist because you're a jackass and didn't take the science seriously. Not a whole lot of options for these people. The only option is to fucking fix it. I agree wholeheartedly with Prime Minister Netanyahu there. This isn't a choice. We cannot squabble over if something is real. If these fucking clowns, they don't want to take it seriously, then exclude them from the conversation. Also easier said than done, but sentiments, I guess. All right. I think it was today. If it's not tomorrow, I'm going to look into what it was said, of course, and I'll have it as an update for you the next time. But there is a meeting on the issue growing in Lebanon with Israel. So with that, I'm going to take a little fucking break here, and I'll be right back. All right. The main thing I wanted to talk about today, the Lebanon situation. It's an expansion of the problem, that's putting it extremely mildly, the problem that we're having in Palestine right now. Something that really struck a chord with me was the story of Israel returning 88 dead bodies to Gaza. Like the one still barely functioning hospital. And the bodies were brought back with no identification of any kind. No names, ages, fucking where did they die, how did they die, nothing. Absolutely no information. So the health minister directed the driver to take it back to the crossing point. I didn't see if they were allowed to cross back into Israel or not. How do you do this? How do you do this and you're just completely fine with this? Man, the dehumanization in the IDF towards pretty much anyone else seems to be pretty thorough. I did note 14 more Palestinians were killed today. The count has broken 41,000 people, and it does not look like it's going to be stopping anytime soon. So the shifting to Lebanon here, if you haven't heard by now, I don't remember what day exactly, but there were some like pagers and little radios, walkie-talkie types, that somehow had explosives planted into them, and Israel was able to synchronize the detonation of these explosives. And a lot of people were hurt. Hezbollah people, of course, but not just them, right? Because they are near other people. And I don't have an exact number, but women and children have been killed or seriously maimed by this. The entire supply chain is being investigated to see where this might have happened. It starts in Taiwan, I think goes to Germany and Norway or something like that. And this is just going to be we investigated ourselves and found we did nothing wrong. That's what I'm expecting to happen. So Israel this week started bombing Lebanon. Now, despite what Netanyahu has said, a lot of innocent people have been dying. The phrase, our fight is with Hezbollah, not with the Lebanese people. Does that sound fucking familiar? Because it should. Just replace Hezbollah with Hamas. and you got the same situation. 41,000 people later, I'm pretty sure that your fight is with the Palestinian people. So far, 550 that have been reported, Lebanese people have been killed since Monday, when the shit began. I don't understand. I don't know why we keep trying to fucking work with this clown. He's not going to stop doing this. He's going to say whatever and just do whatever he wants anyway. Our fight is with Hezbollah, not the Lebanese people. Well, you're fucking killing not Hezbollah people. You're killing a lot of them. And the same bullshit of they're using you as human shields. We believed there were militants there. It was being used for militant operations or whatever. There's terrorism tunnels underneath the building, so we had to blow it up. I don't think so. I absolutely do not think so. This guy will say whatever the fuck he thinks. People will accept, I guess, at face value, expecting that we're going to accept it at face value, because there's a sizable portion of people who do, because they're brown people. So fuck them, let them all die. It's a very abhorrent way of thinking. I stand by something I've been saying. Netanyahu is destroying these places, the southern parts of Lebanon, the Gaza Strip. He's destroying these places to make them uninhabitable, so that if people were to try to come back, there's nothing there. Well, it's deserted, so guess it's ours now. The Lebanese PM, his name is Najib Mikati, has welcomed ceasefire talks. The prevailing ceasefire proposal is a 21-day negotiation period to end the conflict altogether, using this, they're calling it blue line, where the line of the border of Lebanon and Israel exists right now, which is not where the Lebanese would like it to be, given that their territory was taken from them. I didn't get specific names, but there's been already talk in the American media, in other global outlets that have Israeli spokespeople in them, that are saying, where people are saying things like, well, if you don't support the Israeli government doing this, then you might as well declare yourself to be Hezbollah. Or the Israeli spokespeople saying there is no difference between Hezbollah and Lebanese. There is no difference. Hezbollah is the Lebanese people, so kill them all. In essence, that's what he's getting at there. It's the same shit that we saw people saying a year ago when Hamas attacked Israel. And with Israel and Palestine specifically, I said it the last time I recorded, that idea of, if nothing leading up to end of the day, October 6th, anything that happened up to that point does not justify October 7th, then why does October 7th justify everything that has happened since? And Hezbollah, the militant arm of Hezbollah, has been very active in this conflict. There's no denying that. I think this is just Netanyahu's trying to keep this conflict going, because if he doesn't, then he's going to have to take responsibility for his crimes, not just in this conflict either. There's stuff beforehand. This is going to go extremely similarly, and IDF General Herzi Halevi, he was speaking to some troops that are starting to amass near Lebanon. He said to them, "We've been doing airstrikes all day to prepare the ground for your possible entry." Like, they're not even hiding it. They're going to invade Lebanon. And the thing about this is, it's no secret, Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis, a lot of these violent rebel factions are sponsored by Iran. It's not a secret. And the foreign minister of Iran, Abbas Araghchi, he used the phrase, Iran would not remain indifferent. Those are his words. If the conflict in Lebanon grows, so if there is a ground invasion, Iran's going to start, sending troops in kind? It is not fair to say that if you try to apportion responsibility to stopping this on Netanyahu, if you try to say that that is like anti-Semitism or you're calling for the end of Israel or some other nonsense, don't let people fucking tell you that, because that's not true. If this was happening anywhere else, like, I don't know, Ukraine, we would have a problem with it, wouldn't we? But it doesn't seem that the concern, we get a blindfold for any concern of what Israel does to any of its neighbors. And you're like not allowed to say anything about it for some reason. It's fucking ridiculous. The General Assembly, this is either happening Thursday or Friday. I read conflicting information, but Netanyahu and the Palestinian president will be addressing the General Assembly on the same day. So I'm sure that won't be problematic. It'll be a good time. Pretty much everyone who knows they have citizens in Lebanon, they're starting to suggest, they're urging them, strongly urging them to leave. Like Australia in particular, that I read, has something like 15,000 Australian citizens that live in Lebanon, suggesting that if they don't leave now, it's a likely risk that the airport in Beirut will close, and getting out any other way is going to be extremely difficult. The PM of Australia, Anthony Albanese, he mentioned that contingencies do include evacuations over the water. The UK is moving troops into Cyprus, where there's already some naval assets, which they are being moved in place to help evacuate UK citizens out of Lebanon. And we, US, we are doing the same. From what I can gather, we're sending our troops to Cyprus as well. I expect there's going to be a bilateral, trilateral effort to get citizens of all three nations out together, right? Just, I guess, kind of easier to put your resources together. Still, no numbers on how many unit names or anything like that. No real word on how many are going. I mean, obvious for security purposes, but Lloyd Austin, our Secretary of Defense, has been talking to Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. They're both adamant about resolving this through diplomacy. I just cannot help but question Mr. Gallant's authenticity in wanting that. I can't help myself. It just feels like this is what they want to do, and we're just going to get our people out, and then, okay, have fun. Kill as many of them as you want, and who's going to stop them? France has been the most vocal about this in the UN General Assembly. Anyway, the President Macron, he spoke just announcing that his foreign minister will be going to Lebanon to meet with the Lebanese as well as Israel. The Lebanese Hezbollah, I guess we want to make that distinction, right? Because the tiff, the problem is with Hezbollah, not Lebanon, right? Right. We'll see how that works out. I heard a very interesting interview today from a Lebanese journalist. She was asked about, like, what the fuck is the deal? Like, why are they saying shit like Hezbollah is the Lebanese are Hezbollah? This isn't true, but what the fuck? How do people keep coming to this conclusion or trying to draw this link? And it's that Hezbollah is not just a terrorist, militant, renegade faction. They're not just that. They are also a very far-right political party that has seats in government, that hold government positions, who also happen to have a fucking militant wing, who are fucking lunatics. So that's might be where, I don't know. I really feel like we should start labeling the MAGA movement as blanket label them as terrorists. Well, you have militant factions. You do. Fucking 3%ers and the Proud Boys and all those other clowns and all the people that try to overthrow the government. Sounds to me like MAGA and Hezbollah are very similar. They're just hard right fundamentalists, aren't they? I think it's a good connection to make. Who knows? Maybe we can speak this into existence. But France has been leading the charge on bringing the Lebanese government, which includes Hezbollah, and includes Hezbollah militants who are not necessarily the same people, bringing them to the table with Israel to try to do something to settle the whole situation down. But doesn't seem like it's going well. I don't know. Hard to say because not a lot of news is out at the moment. Just what people are doing, what nations are doing to get their citizens out of Lebanon as fucking quickly as possible, and whatever the coordinated efforts between them, us, and whoever else. Fucking God bless Cyprus. Thank you for fucking hosting us as all of this madness plays out. I'm gonna keep watching all of these events, of course. If there's anything major that pops up between now and the next time I sit down for this, we'll see how the speeches between Netanyahu and the Palestinian President Abbas, how those go. Regardless, I will keep an eye on this, and if something pops off, I will be the first to tell you. Okay, let me do one of these. Before I get out of here, I want to add some fun ones that are not quite as, like existential dread kind of things. So there's a trade deal between New Zealand and the United Arab Emirates. That's kind of fun. They are lowering their tariffs on products. It's 98.5%, and then that is supposed to rise to 99% within the next 3 years. That's according to Minister Todd McClay. The trade deal valuation is 1.3 billion Kiwi dollars, which 813.5 million US back in June. Talks started in May, concluded in August. Very cool. Fastest trade agreement ever for New Zealand. Pretty dope. And Australia, I didn't catch this on my usual perusing of the news, but Australia and the Emiratis have one as well. So good for them. Another one, the Omaha electoral district. If you pay attention to news, like you fucking heard this hammered into your ears plenty of times already. But for the potential person who doesn't know, in Nebraska and Maine are the only two states in the U.S. that do not have winner-take-all electoral college votes. Nebraska is, to the surprise of probably no one, more conservative, and Omaha is the spot where typically the Democrat candidate tends to do better. But this proposed change would take that one electoral vote off the table for Kamala Harris, which in some scenarios it is that close that it could be that one. Maine also has a more blue lean, but there's a red electoral vote. So that it has consistently been that anytime Nebraska has suggested changing it to winner take all, that Maine says, okay, then we're going to do the same, because your change benefits typically Republican candidates, whereas our change would make it a wash because it would benefit the Democrat candidate. And that stalemate typically takes the vote off the table. There were some shenanigans recently where the legislature of Nebraska waited for a certain period to ensure that Maine would not have enough time in their state legislature to also bring their district or winner-take-all electoral college shit up to a vote. They wouldn't have time. There is a state senator in Nebraska. I believe he represents Omaha. His name is Mike McDonald. He was the deciding vote, and I don't think a lot of people are a fan of him now. The governor of Nebraska, Jim Pillen, referred to McDonald's actions as profoundly disappointing, but he did confirm that because it didn't meet the requirements to bring it to the legislature, he's not going to be calling for a session. Thus, it's not going to happen. I would very much like for this electoral college nonsense to be done away with. Fucking one person, one vote. It's as simple as that. If, however, we have to keep the electoral college, because I know that removing it would be a pain in the maybe it would be better we all do this fucking district by district shit, because like if it's 50% plus one for Trump, there's still 49.9% for not Trump. So that's a lot of people, their voices aren't heard. And the same for, like, to be fair about it, this is the same shit applies for like California, like San Francisco, LA, San Diego. Those places are fucking huge. But in the middle, where a lot of people forget that people live, Central California is not quite as progressive or blue as you would think. Do those people not deserve a vote as well? Like, I don't know. It's the whole thing. It's needlessly complicated. But I don't know if we're going to be having this convoluted, needlessly complicated, stupid as fuck system. Let's make it even more complicated and more stupid and more difficult, because fuck you. All right. Kamala Harris will be visiting the U.S.-Mexico border in Arizona. I believe she will be stopping in Douglas or Nogales. One of those two. I'm pretty sure it's Douglas, but Nogales is one of the more popular crossing points. But that's going to be this at the end of this week, Friday, I think. Don't have much more details, but that's what I do know. And Tim Walz, J.D. Vance will be debating October 1st. This will be at 1800 Arizona time. So make your adjustments however you need. I sincerely hope that Tim Walz brings up the attempted fucking stolen valor talk. I really, really do. Because J.D. Vance is a much lower rank than Tim Walz was when he was in the National Guard. So that should be fun. I would very much like to see that dynamic play out. It'll be great. But I'm sure Tim Walz is a lot classier than I am. so he wouldn't say some shit like that. That's it. That's all I got. I am going to insert one of my fucking... Thanks for listening to this episode of The Progressive Patriots, a Lux Media production. If you'd like to give your thoughts on what we discussed, or if there's something that needs a correction, you can text our anonymous line at 833-589-7637. If you think you're entertaining or informative, call and leave a message, and we'll see if you make the final release. 833-LUXPODS. You can't go wrong. If you prefer to hit us up on social media, the account name is LVX Media Net on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, all the rest of that shit. If you can't find us, chances are we're not on it. A lot of stuff gets cut from the final releases for all kinds of reasons. So if you want the raw audio from our lips direct to your ears, look us up on Patreon. LVX Media Net over there, just like everywhere else. Intro and outro by Middle of Nowhere Beats. And for more shows like the one you just listened to, go to lvxmedia.net. One of my little outro dealios right there. And for parting words, well, it's just me, so fucking be sure to follow me on all the nonsense social media bullshit, LVX Media Net, anywhere and everywhere. If you cannot find it, we're not on it. If you want me to be on it, let me know which one. 833-LUXPODS. Please follow my YouTube channel where I make videos every so often, because that's the only time I can really get to it. If you want to get into some good trouble, go to commondefense.us, get yourself signed up, Have I rambled enough? I think I have. Righto. I'm going to get the fuck out of here. I've been Leo, will continue to be Leo, but I will be Leo next time as well, when the progressive patriots are all up in your fucking ears. Bye.
To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair.
No dictatorship can exist with suffrage, freedom of speech and press.
The misery that is now upon us is the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. Life can be free and beautiful. The hate of men will pass, and the power they took from the people will return to the people.